Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. Back for another episode of Womansplaining Live. I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America. How is everybody today on this Friday, Junior? I see we've got Mary and Leslie from our leadership team in the chat on YouTube. So that is awesome. Be sure to say hello to them. They'll be chatting with you today. If you are joining us, let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any specific questions or just something that you would like to chat with me about, please do put that in the comments. And pretty much anything is fair game today. I do have a list of things that we're going to talk about today. I've got good news and bad news. I don't know, where do you guys want to start? You want to start with good news or bad news? The Washington state legislature is Hawkinson, Washington. Where is that? Bragg fodder. Where's Hawkinson? I've never heard of that. And was in Washington for almost my entire life, except the last 2 years. Hey, Maddie B, good to see you. Hello from Whatcom County. Thank you, Mochi Girl. I was trying to figure out what you were trying to say there. So Whatcom County, good to see you all. Kind of by battleground. Okay, got you. So the Washington state legislature is currently, both of the House and the Senate are debating bills on the floor of the chambers. They're kind of in that home stretch of the session where pretty much everything has been passed out of committee that's going to get passed out of committee, maybe with a few exceptions. And so they are now debating these bills. And so most of the bills, once they pass out of the chamber, then they will go to Ferguson for signing. But some of these bills, if they were amended once they cross chambers, then they have to go back to the chamber of origin for what they call concurrence, where the chamber of origin it'll go straight to the floor for a vote, and that chamber will vote on the bill as it was amended by the other chamber. So there's still a lot going on. This is really kind of when we figure out which of the bad things is going to pass. And it's probably going to be a lot of the bad things. So a couple of bills that have passed just earlier today, are House Bill 1321, which is the bill that gives the governor broad authority over outside militias. So think about like if there were to be a National Guard come in from, let's say, Idaho to try to help with a natural disaster, maybe there's fires or something like that, they have to have the approval of the governor in order to do that. And I don't think what we're talking about here is natural disasters or really defending the border, even maybe, maybe defending the border. But I think this bill the intent here is really about the immigration efforts of the Trump administration. Now, the bill does allow for presidential declaration and order for National Guard to be able to come into the state without the governor's permission. So that is not a good bill. It's really it's an interesting bill because it's sort of like, what's the need for this? Why would they set the governor up with this kind of authority? So that's not a good one. I don't think giving more power to the governor is a good idea. The other one is House Bill 1531, which gives more power to the state over health emergencies and being able to potentially mandate certain things. Now, they claim, the Democrats being they claim that is not the intent of the bill. But, after if you lived through Washington during COVID, which I did also, you don't take anything at face value. And if a bill could be used to grant power during an extraordinary event, I think that is fair game. So this House Bill 1531 is something that's very concerning to me, and to a lot of you as well. We've been talking about this bill since it dropped back in January, and it did pass through the Senate with one Republican voting yes, and that is Senator Paul Harris. He is from Southwest Washington, Legislative District 17. I don't know, frag fodder. Is that your district? Anyway, he's from down there, Southwest Washington. So this is his last. He moved from the House over to the Senate. He was in the House for a very long time. I don't know exactly how long, but he moved over to the Senate. And so the terms in the Senate are 4 years. So this is his first term as a senator. So he's got 3 more terms after this. He is basically a Democrat who lives in a mostly red district. And I believe that's why he has, I don't know, been running as a Republican, but all this time over the last 4 years that I've been watching Washington state legislation, he has been voting often with the Democrats, especially on education policy and health policy. He did that when he was over in the House too. There were a couple different bills. I think it was last session. It was either last session or 2023 where they changed the definition of the word vaccine. And he might have even been one of the co-sponsors on that bill, but that was another bad bill. I know he voted for it. I can tell you that much for sure. I don't recall the bill number off the top of my head, which is unusual because I have this weird ability to remember random bill numbers. So that's what I have seen so far today. I think last week I told you guys that they passed the House Bill 1052, which is the expansion of the hate crimes law in Washington. And they had ripped out the amendment that was put into the bill on the House side, which caused 4 House Republicans to vote yes for it. So that got yanked out in the Senate. So I believe that's going to have to go back over to the House for concurrence, but I think it will pass without an issue. So a couple of the ones that we are looking at that are still yet to pass is House Bill 1971. This came on our radar late in the game this session. This is for hormone therapy, a 12-month supply. So right now, maybe prescribers only do a 1 month or a 3 month. This mandates that they have to provide a 12-month supply to patients. And this is for any kind of, hormone therapy, but in particular, it would apply to cross-sex hormones, gender therapy. I shouldn't say gender, hormone therapy for like puberty blockers and things like that. So we're talking about children. There's no minimum age. There's no age discrepancy or definitions on this bill. So that is very troubling. It was voted out of committee with 2 Republicans voting yes. That was Ron Mazzal and Harris again. And then it was voted out of the Ways and Means Committee, I think Tuesday, April 8th. And in being voted out of the Ways and Means Committee, Senator Keith Wagner from Cedro Woolley voted yes to vote it out of committee. And then there were a handful of Republicans that voted without recommendation, which is kind of like they almost like not vote. We're not going to take an opinion on it, which I think is a cop out. So that will go to the Senate floor. It's on the calendar, so that could go for a vote any day. You guys probably know House Bill 1163, which is your permit to purchase a firearm bill. That is going to be getting a vote probably any day now on the Senate side. Now, something interesting on 1163 is that they added an amendment to change the effective date of the law. So instead of taking effect in 2026, they've pushed it out to either June or July of 2027. And I believe that they did this for fiscal reasons. I believe that they were probably having a difficult time trying to figure out the funding mechanism here. So if they pushed it out a year, that maybe gave them a little bit more financial wiggle room. They do have to have it. The funding has to be made approved by June of 2025, or the act is null and void. And I've had a few people ask me, well, what is the likelihood of that happening? I think if they pass the bill, they're going to find a way. They're going to make a way to fund it. So I think if you see House Bill 1163 pass, they will fund it. So I would expect that that's going to happen. I mean, anything is possible, but I don't anticipate that. The other ones that we've been watching really closely are House Bill 1296 and Senate Bill 5181, which are the bills that essentially repeal the Initiative 2081, which is called the Parents' Bill of Rights. House Bill 1296 has a lot more crap in it than I don't know what else to say on it. Then 5181, it has like a student's bill of rights. And our team was just talking at, we have our meeting, anybody can come. It's a citizen meeting on Zoom every Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're talking about so Senate Bill 5123 adds different groups of students that would now be protected. So different classifications would include immigration status, homelessness, sexual identity or expression, gender identity or expression, neurodiversity. I think I covered them all. That would be added to the list of protected classes of students in public education. So that bill again is Senate Bill 5123. And it went through executive session, I think on Monday, and they didn't take action on it. So they didn't vote it out of committee. And I think it's possible that you could see an amendment that would include the content of Senate Bill 5123 into House Bill 1296. I think that's a very real possibility, because 1296 has that student bill of rights kind of thing in it. I think you could see those two get merged together. That's a strategy that the Democrats use. I wouldn't say always, but it's not uncommon either. If they have a bill that's very objectionable, and here you've got two very objectionable bills. So if they slide 5123 into 1296, maybe there won't be as much noise from the citizens and maybe not from the Republicans, because the Republicans are against both of those. So be interesting to see what they do with that. But I'm kind of suspecting that they're going to merge those two bills. So we will see. I'm looking in the chat here to see if you guys, if there's anything I missed. 5068 is the bill that would allow non-citizens to be law enforcement officers, prosecutors, firefighters, and more. That bill is on the House floor calendar. I was kind of hoping it would have passed. I'm not hoping it would have passed, but I was wanting them to vote on it so that I could talk to you guys about that today, because I think we're all kind of curious to know who are the Republicans that are going to vote for that bill, and what amendments might be added on the floor to that bill. But as of right now, it has not gotten a vote. There are a couple of amendments that were added in committee. One of them is on the firearms clause for because non-citizens don't have firearm rights, and so they have to change the law to allow non-citizens to be able to carry firearms while they're on duty as law enforcement officers. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I've had a number of people ask if this is about are they allowing illegal aliens to be law enforcement officers? No. This is for people who are legally allowed to work in the United States. Now, if someone comes to the United States and claims refugee or asylum status, they are legally allowed to work. So those people would be allowed to be law enforcement officers and prosecutors. A lot of people have said, well, what about the military? We allow non-citizens to be in the military. Well, they have to go through a process. They have to have a green card in order to serve in the military. There is an extensive background check process and all of that. They can't just come in, claim refugee status, and enlist in the military the next day. This bill, however, if somebody came and claimed refugee status and then applied as a law enforcement officer in Washington state, they could be hired. There's no waiting period. There's no green card. There's nothing like that. So they're not illegal aliens, but they really shouldn't be serving as law enforcement. And if you watched my um, if you watched my interview with Sheriff Keith Swank from Pierce County, he that was a live, I think, early last week. You can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel. But he's going to come back on, and we're going to talk about it after it passes through the House, and whatever amendments are on it, we're going to do that. So something to look forward to. Okay. How about some good news? I've got a couple of pieces of really good news for you guys today. So earlier today, Congress passed the SAVE Act, which ensures that only citizens are eligible to vote. You will have to prove your citizenship in order to be able to vote in federal elections. That got it got bipartisan support. I think there were 4 Democrats. Let me just double check here. So Ed Case from Hawaii, Henry Cooler from Texas, a Democrat, Jerry Golden from Maine, and Marie Glusenkamp Perez from Washington. They all voted yes on this bill. And I think MGP from Washington's 3rd district, I think she's just real careful with her vote because she knows that she's in a very purple district. And she won back in 2022. That was a really close vote. And then I think it was a little bit farther apart in 2024, but she knows she's kind of at a risky seat. She's in a seat that could go either way. So she voted yes on that, which is great. So it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out. So this will now go over to the Senate. So it has to pass through the Senate before it would be signed into law by President Trump. Now, this is following his executive order from March 25th, where he wanted to make sure that only citizens are voting in United States elections. And so we love to see these executive orders being legislated, because if you have an executive order, those can easily be overturned by a future administration. It's just the swipe of a pen and that's gone away. So actually having this legislated is a huge deal. And there have been so many great executive orders coming out of the White House that need to be legislated. So this is really encouraging to see this bill get passed. This was Chip Roy from Texas. This was his bill. And also Mike Lee on the Senate side. So now it goes over to the Senate, and I can't see that we'll have any Republicans not voting for it. So it should be an easy thing to get passed and signed into law. What'll be interesting, though, is we know that the states like Washington, California, New York that like to let anybody vote, there's going to be some pushback on that. And how will this, if this applies to federal elections, and we were talking about this at our lunchtime meeting as well. So let's just take Washington, for example, and say that the SAVE Act is passed. You have to prove your citizenship to be able to vote in federal elections. But Washington's kind of doing this, side by side. They've got their state election and the federal election, where some people can't vote in the federal election because they're not citizens. And so is it possible to think that maybe those federal election outcomes would be more to the Republican side, and all the state level elections would swing more Democrat? I think that could be very, very revealing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's going to be a long game, of course, for most of this stuff, because you're going to have, you're going to have states that will fight back against it. So things might get caught up in the courts or whatever. And then you're going to have, potentially these interesting situations where you've got one group of people voting over here and a whole other group voting over here. So that'll be interesting. Curious what you guys think. Hey, Evelyn, good to see you. you'll want to rewatch later because I just did. I think you're in Washington, but I just did a whole bunch of Washington bills. Those guys are on the floor right now in both the House and the Senate, voting on more bad laws for Washington state citizens. And you guys have a lot of tax stuff that's potentially coming up. We don't play with tax policy very much. That's not our wheelhouse. So we let other people do that, but they're bad. That's I can tell you they're bad. So hopefully that won't happen because I think a lot of people could potentially get taxed out of their homes, and they don't want to be. So that's never good. It's always nice if it's your choice to leave instead of not being able to stay. All right. Another good federal bill to tell you about last week. And I have a video going live on this bill later today. This is the Say No to Indoctrination Act. It was filed last week by Representative Burgess Owens from Utah. It was in the House Education Committee yesterday, passed out of committee yesterday. This bill codifies into law another executive order. This one is I think it was like End Radical Indoctrination. That was signed back at the end of January. And so this bill codifies into law that executive order, which is another thing that we love. We love to see it. So it's good that they're getting some of these things out through the legislative process. I would imagine, because Congress as a whole, they've got the Republicans have the majority in both the House and Senate. So it's a perfect time to codify Trump's executive orders into law. So that's awesome. Doge it up. Thank you for what you do. Yes, I love that. I love hearing that people are going out and, however you do activism, that's awesome because everybody just needs to do something. Whether you like local, whether you like school boards, state level, federal level, it's just important that we as citizens stand up. And so one thing I have been trying to let people know about is you really need to watch your local level, your city or your county council. That's where a lot of bad stuff happens. And the Democrats are really good. This isn't just, if you're watching from Washington, this isn't just a Washington problem. This happens everywhere. Even in my area here in Florida, the Democrats are very good at engaging their people and getting them to run for office. They don't usually leave a seat on a position on the ballot without a candidate on it, and so sometimes they get elected by default. But it's really important that you see what, kind of keep abreast of what's going on in your local government because, oh, darn cat, excuse me. He's going to knock until I let him in. Your local county or city government has way more impact on your life than Washington, D.C. does. And in Bothell, which is where I used to live, they are working to pass a resolution to make the city a safe place, a sanctuary city for LGBTQ. And so that's not just declaring that they're a safe place, but allocating taxpayer resources for special events, special trainings, and things like that. So those are things that you just want to keep an eye on. And if you can go and speak out, that's even better, and grab some of your neighbors and go do that. It always is easier when you have friends to do it with you. So I would encourage you to kind of keep an eye on that stuff. And it's really easy. If you don't know where to look, just Google your city name. And so like Bothell City Council meeting agenda, and it'll pop up the city website and the agenda, and you can look through all that stuff. And it's pretty easy to figure it out. So I don't see any questions here in the chat. I'm trying to think if there was something else I was going to tell you about. My little cat was knocking at the door and it interrupted my train of thought. Are there any Republican-led bills in Washington? Totally not sure and curious. There are a few. They're not the ones that would have the most impact on citizens don't go anywhere. There are a few that don't make a lot of impact on, on a broad scale, but are more specific to different things that get that have made it through the process. But you usually don't hear about them because they're not like they don't impact your average citizen in too great of a detail. Um, so yeah, trying to think of any that I know of offhand. None of the bills that we were really tracking closely were Republican-led bills. We pretty much spend most of our energy on making sure people know about the bad bills so that they can fight the bad bills. And I think there were over 2,000 over 2,000 bills that have been dropped so far. It's probably even higher because I know they keep dropping bills. So there's been a lot of bills being dropped, and it's almost impossible to keep up. So yeah, sorry, I don't have any better information off the top of my head. Um, let's see what else is going on. We have some crazy stuff going on here in our Florida legislature, but I don't have anything on that I've got prepared to share with y'all today. So sounds like there's going to be maybe a rally up in Tallahassee in a couple weeks. I'll go for that. I'm planning to actually go at the beginning of May and spend some time in the legislature in committee hearings. Here in Florida, we don't have the ability um, to testify remotely. So I would have to go there. And so I kind of need to just start networking and meet people. And, anybody can do that. I'm just a citizen, just like probably most of you are. And so you can engage with your elected officials like that. You can go to your state capitol and just, ask for a meeting with them. Probably a good idea to line it up in advance, look at your legislative website and email your representatives. Probably not. It's probably a little bit more intimidating if you've got Democrats representing you. Maybe not the most comfortable conversation, but I think that those are necessary conversations to be had. So a lot of states are wrapping up their legislative sessions. Idaho just finished last week. They passed a number of really good bills. I did a video yesterday or 2 days ago on their Medical Freedom Act. They passed some kind of an election integrity bill. Mary's going to do a video on that will probably come out next week. They passed cursive writing. They passed to show prenatal development in I think it starts at like 8th grade. I forget what grade it starts, but they're going to show the videos from I forget, live action, I think. And so that's great, teaching kids, about human development, even in the womb. I think that's really important because, as we all know, Planned Parenthood is in there pushing their agenda. And I think it's important that children know. Oh, yeah, ivermectin. Yeah. So Idaho and Oklahoma both pushed ivermectin bills and got those through. Would be great if Florida could do that. Ron DeSantis asked for the legislature to pass some medical freedom stuff, and it's not happening. Instead, we've got rhinoing going on, which does not make many of us very happy. So if you go to a red state, you must engage in the fight. You must get some skin in the game, because we cannot just elect people, then expect that they're going to do the right thing. There's a whole power and money and all of this. It's all kind of a big puppet show. And so it's really critical that citizens speak up, because as we speak up in more numbers, that can overpower, that can kind of compensate for some of the money issue that we're up against. So I'm trying to think of who else. Colorado's got a really terrible bill that a gender madness bill that kind of wraps like the worst of the worst bills in like California, Washington. Would consider parents would be abusive if they dead named their child or used the wrong pronouns of their child or didn't give them access to gender affirming care. It's a terrible, terrible bill really gives the state the authority to step in on that. Texas also has, and it looks like they tried this also in 2023, but it would be a constitutional amendment. It's called parental rights, but it actually gives the government sort of an open door to get in there and have, take away the parental rights if it's for the good of the government, kind of thing. That's not exactly, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but it's not good. And so, you need to know that these types of bills are happening in red states too. A lot of people hear the school choice bills, they think that's great, but actually that is bigger government, that's growing the government, that's giving the government more access to your child, more strings to your child. So it's really important that people do their due diligence and either dig into these bills on yourself or find resources that are going to give you the truth. And what a lot of people don't know is a lot of these policy centers are, lobbying special interest non-government organizations. So even though they may seem conservative, they have their own agenda, and it's often not what is best for the citizens. So just something to be aware of. And all of this has just been a learning process for me and for our team at Conservative Ladies. Is just, it's just all a learning process. And as you dig into these things and get really curious, you'll start to find out that some of these people have an agenda that at the end of the day doesn't really align with yours. Evelyn, she's talking about the Colorado bill. It's a sad, terrible bill arming woke moms against fathers as well, if I remember correctly. Yes, it's the Colorado bill I covered the other day. Yeah. So this is going to be really bad in family courts, because you might have a divorced couple and the dad doesn't want Sarah to become Sam, and the mom does. And so the mom takes the child to Colorado from, Texas, Florida, wherever, that doesn't have this law. And Colorado becomes a sanctuary state for this child to undergo this so-called gender affirming care. So it's really bad. It's going to tear families apart. And what frightens me about these policies is people hear about them, they see them, and they think that's horrific, but it doesn't really sink in the gravity of how horrific these bills are. And I don't think it will until it impacts people personally or someone who's very close to them, which is sad. And hopefully we can start waking people up before it's too late. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you guys. A good rundown of the kind of the bills in Washington of where things sit right now. Next week, we'll definitely have a better idea of how things are shaping out. Oh, one thing I knew, this was what the cat interrupted me about. Ferguson, there's kind of this talk about Ferguson maybe being moderate and maybe he's going to veto all these bills. And, I was thinking about this the other day. This is his first term. And so he's really kind of a political puppet master, right? He's got the Democrats in the legislature, and they don't quite have a super majority. So if he vetoes something, they don't have enough to override his vetoes. They need to pull some people from the Republican side to be able to override a veto. So he's got kind of this like power position where maybe wants to keep the Republicans keep them in the minority, but not a super minority, right? Because if they're in a super minority, then the legislative Democrats would have power to override his veto. So I think he's doing like this interesting balancing act with the Democrats and the Republican, kind of like, I'm a friend of both of you. But I think it's really all about Bob. And I think at the end of the day, Bob is really, what he's doing is very manipulative and trying to figure out how to really give himself the most amount of power in the situation. So it's going to be, he's signed a couple dozen bills into law. He did a partial veto on one of Marco Elias's bills. It's going to be interesting though to see how he how he goes with some of these bills, especially, I know the Republicans are hoping he'll veto some of the tax bills. It's gonna be interesting, I think, to see. So we should all watch. But this is his first year of his first term, and so he doesn't want to like come out with a bang and really play his hand too much because he wants to be reelected. And he doesn't want to piss off the Democrats too much because he wants them to want him to keep coming back. So anyway, just some random thoughts about Ferguson I was thinking about the other day. Maddie B says, "Hey, Julie, I know that House Bill 1163 has passed." Okay, so it hasn't passed. It passed out of the House. It hasn't passed out of the Senate yet. And I mentioned this earlier about 1163. They actually amended the bill in the Senate to push the effective date out to, I think it's either June or July 1st of 2027. So that I think they did that for funding reasons, because if it started it was originally starting in 2026. But this gives them another year to split the funding between 25, 26, and even 27. So I think, and this is what I said earlier, I think they're going to pass it. And they will only pass it if they know that they have got the funding figured out or finagled or wherever they're going to take it from. Whoever they're going to tax to make sure that it gets funded. So I do believe it will pass. I do believe they will get funded. Of course, there's always the chance that neither of those things happen, but I don't see that happening. So I think prepare. Oh, that's all right, Maddie B. I'm happy to cover it again. And I know a bunch more people have jumped on since I covered that in the beginning. So hopefully that was helpful for more people other than just you. And I'm happy to answer any of those questions at any time. So you guys, please be sure to reach out to me or my team if you have any questions about specific policy. We're happy to just answer questions for you. Or if you have a video suggestion that you'd like to tell us about, you can just send that to info@conservativeladiesofamerica.com. And we are happy to do that. Somebody the other day asked if we would cover the Idaho election integrity bill. So Mary's going to do that next week. So we love to share information with you guys and educate you guys on all this stuff that's happening, and it helps educate us as well. So please do let us know. Again, that's info@conservativeladiesofamerica.com. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I hope to see you back here next Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. Take care.